Do you ever find yourself spending so much time trying to craft just the perfect post or make sure that your landing page looks just so, and you spend hours, sometimes days or weeks just trying to make it perfect and look exactly how you want it to look and laid out exactly how you want it to laid out, saying just the right thing, but it feels like it's hard to put that together. Or maybe you have team that works for you that does some of that stuff for you, that does your graphics or your website or your landing pages, and you tell them what you want them to create, but they have questions because they don't have a clear understanding of what's in your head in order to put it out into something tangible that you can present to the world to represent your brand. So if you've ever been in either one of those positions, could it be that you are building your brand out of order? And so branding has an order. Branding has an order. And I want to share with you today in this video what I have discovered are the 4 steps that you have to go through in this order in order to create a brand that represents you and what you are meant to do in this world, how you want to be known, that attracts the right clients to you, and that feels easier than this heavy lifting that we feel like we have to do sometimes in order to put out just the right or the perfect um, post or website or landing page or anything else that's representing our brand, because you want your brand to do the heavy lifting for you so that when it comes time to sell, it's that much easier and you don't have to do as hard of a sell. So, branding has an order. I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps today of how you build a successful brand. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the disclaimer right now that um, I am going to get into some Bible on this because um, this is a biblical principle and this is something that I have discovered. And for me, um, the Bible is um, it's instructions for how to live, and it covers every topic you can think of, including business and including branding. And so there's so many things that I learn as I'm studying the word that have revealed how I should be running my business as well as how to build a brand. And so we're going to talk about these 4 steps. Um, and they are the steps that you want to make sure that you do not miss one of these and that you do not go out of order for. Um, and this is informed by Bible. So, um, the first thing I want to tell you is that the message comes before the material. So when we're talking about like the things that we want to build in our brand, like our websites, our logos, our graphics, our posts, all of those things, the message has to come first. The message comes before the material. And so um, I saw yesterday someone's post that was talking about how your brand is not your logo, and I talk about this all the time. Your brand is not your logo, and it's not the colors, it's not the images, it's not your website, but your brand is your reputation. It is, and we're going to talk about that some more in just a little bit, but they're not the same thing. Okay. The brand is the belief that people have about you and, and what you represent in the world. So I want to go back to this whole idea of um, your message that has to come first. And so, um, in the Bible, the it talks about the word, and it used in the Greek translation of the Bible. It uses the word logos, and I think it's used something like 300 times in the Bible. But the Greek word logos, which is really interesting because we get the word logo from this word logos, but logos translates to word or speech or utterance or message. So when we think of logo, we think about this visual image that is supposed to represent our brand, but the original word of it is really more about the message. So I want to go really quickly to um, John first chapter, verse 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, Logos, and the Word, Logos, was with God." Remember that, with God. "And the Word, Logos, was God." So just in that one verse, it uses this word logos three times. This idea of the word, and it said that that was what there was in the beginning. So when you think about this, in the beginning was the word. It all starts with the message, right? The message comes before the material. So I love Genesis 1 because it talks so much about, I think it gives the clearest representation of who God is, how he operates, and what his intentions are for us and for how we're supposed to live. And so in Genesis 1, very first verse of the Bible, as soon as you open it up, for anybody, whether you are a Christian or not, most people know that at the beginning of the Bible, it talks about how the world was created, right? So Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning," remember the beginning before anything starts, talking about order here, right? "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." So, um, each day, we know that first week of the world, each day, he was speaking a thing, he was creating a thing, right? It all started with a word and then the manifestation of the word. So that was, light, it was day and night, it was the oceans and the land, it was the stars and the heavens, it was the um, plants and the animals, and then it was man, right? And then at the end of it, he rested each day, he said it was good, right? So that's in Genesis 1 1. But when you go to just a little bit further in that chapter, and it's Genesis 1:26, and it says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image after our likeness.'" So God created us in his image. I want you to remember that because as we're talking about this, that is very important for us to remember as creators, that God created us in his image, meaning that he's a creator, therefore we are, he's creative, therefore we are as well. So God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, both male and female. So sometimes when we hear this, when we hear these portions of the Bible and it talks about, man, remember he's talking about both men and women. So ladies, this is for us too. And it said that he blessed them after he created them. So when I'm talking about that the message comes before the material, how do we find our message? You might be asking yourself that, like, I don't know what my message is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be talking about. So if that's where I'm supposed to start, how do I find it? So the first thing that we heard was in John 1:1 was that the word was with God. So if you want to find it, God has it. So we have to go to him. And without God, there is no message. So if with him there is the message, that's where the word is. Without him, you don't have it. So um, this is where we fall into the trap of trying to do it all on our own and looking to chat GPT to tell us what we should be talking about, um, looking at other people's pages to figure out what we should be talking about, when if we follow the instructions, um, we are told that we're supposed to find it with him because that's who has it. So once we go and we know where to find it, then how do we know what the message is? Right? So sometimes it's hard to feel like we hear from God, or you might be reading the Bible and you're like, well, I don't know what it's trying to tell me right now. And so um the way that we know what the message or the word is for us that we're supposed to be communicating out to the world as we're building our brand is, it said the word was God. So God leaves us clues everywhere. He does it in the Bible, he does it as we're living our lives. And the Bible is literally a love story between God and his relationship to us as humans. And it reveals who he is, it reveals how he thinks, how he operates, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what's important to him, how he helps us, how we can connect with him and have a relationship with him, um, who his people are, how he wants to be known, and what he wants us to do. So God has CTAs just like we do. He tells us what to do. And if you listen to that list that I just gave you, aren't those all the same things that we are trying to do with our messaging, with our brand? We're trying to communicate who we are, what we like, what we don't like, who is a good fit for us, like who are our people. We're trying to give people instructions about how to move forward. Um, we're identifying problems for them to show them how we can help them. All of these things are what God does as well. And if we're built in his likeness, then that's the way that we should be doing it as well through our message. We're telling people all of these things that they need to know so that they will believe. And that is what your brand is. Your brand is a set of beliefs that people have about who you are and what you do. So, um, what I love is that he always reveals something about himself and then gives an instruction for what to do with that information and how to implement it. And so in Genesis 1, he spoke, he turned that word into a thing. Um, he blessed what he created. He said it was good. And then he told man what to do with it, right? So he said, be fruitful and multiply. Um, so the Bible, which is God's word, his logos, is his message for us. Just like we have a message that we have to get out to our people as well. Um, so if we were made in his image, how he does it is how we should do it as well. So here are the 4 steps. The first, and when I'm giving you this, when I was thinking about this, I was talking to my mom yesterday, and I thought about it this morning when I was kind of just deep into this. And my mom was saying that someone had asked her to make a cake, and she makes this special chocolate cake. It's like gooey, and then it's got like this chocolate frosting on top. It's so good. Like when you talk about decadence, that is what this cake is. And so somebody asked her to make a cake for them, and they said that they needed it like in 24 hours. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm probably not gonna be able to do that." But she thought that they needed it for to take over to their family or something like that. So anyway, the point is, they asked her to make this cake, and before she could make it, she had the idea of like, "Oh, this is the cake that I should make for them." But she needed to know what the cake was gonna be for, who it was gonna be for, before she could be like, "Okay, this is the right cake to make, and these are the ingredients that I need to get." So, there has to be intention and purpose before you can actually make the thing, right? Just like when we bake a cake. And then there's instructions, there's a recipe that goes with it so that it comes out the way that we want it to, and it's not just a big glob of eggs and flour, right? Or if you leave one thing out, then it's not gonna come out the way that you want it to. The same thing is true when we are building our brand. And so that's why I want to give you these 4 steps, because when you follow this process, this is when you're going to get the results that you really want. So, step 1 is the idea. You have to start with an idea. And this is the part that's easy. Like we get ideas all the time, right? Who doesn't sit around like if you are an entrepreneur, we are constantly coming up with ideas. The problem comes in where we take these ideas and we jump to the last step, which is creating the thing, making the thing, and we haven't fleshed it out yet. And then we're wondering why it didn't work. So it's just like, in the example of the cake, if my mom was like, "Ooh, I should make a cake." And then she just starts throwing some stuff in a bowl and puts it in the oven, and then she wonders why it's a big gloppy mess at the end, because she started with an idea and then she jumped right to the implementation, and pieces were missed in between. So the first step is idea. That one we got covered. I know you know how to come up with ideas. You get ideas all the time. But step 2, this is the part that people miss. Intention. You have to have intention that goes with the idea. When we get an idea, um, and I looked this up because I was really kind of curious about like, what does Merriam-Webster say about ideas? It says ideas are concepts that are without form and or shape yet. So isn't that just like when I was talking before about the how God created the world? Like it was without form, it was void, and then set an intention for what he wanted it to be, and that's when the process started rolling, right? So the same thing is true with your brand. You have an idea for what it is that you want to build. You know, like what you have this idea of, you know, where you want it to go, or you know what you want to become as part of your brand. um, but when we jump from that to going out and doing all the things, that's when it falls apart on us. So you have to have intention behind, okay, this is the thing that I want to create. What is my purpose behind it? Who am I trying to reach? What do I want my result to be? What is the goal why am I doing this? So you have to have intention. Step 3 is information. This is where the message comes in. This is where the logos comes in. So we were talking earlier about, like, with your brand, how a lot of people think that it is the visual representation, like the logo, the website, all those things. Your logo can't come before the logos, before the word and the messaging. So a logo, um, when I actually, let me go back a second. So when we are creating something, um, just like God did, and we're built in His image, He would speak a thing, and then it would happen. So information is the act of communicating, not your knowledge or your wisdom or what you know, your expertise. That is where your message comes in. So just like we were talking before about all of the things that what God's message is, and how he talks about like who he is, what he believes, what he likes, what he doesn't like, who are his people, um, you know, what are you supposed to do next? How can he help you? All of those things are what are part of our message. Um, what makes him different than all of the other gods that people were worshiping at the time? um, how to be in relationship with him. These are all parts of your message, and so many business owners miss this. They don't include these things in their content and their messaging, and then they wonder why people have so many questions for them when it's time to make the sale, or people aren't sure that they're the right solution or the right person for them. It's because they didn't talk about these things in their content, in their messaging. They weren't clear about who they are, what they do, how they can help people, who's the right person for them, who's not the right person for them, and what are the steps to take to get your help. So you have to be clear on all of these things in your messaging. That's the information piece. That is the word piece. And it has to come before you start trying to do the things and build the things. So that leads us to step 4, the last step in this, which is implementation. So to implement means to carry out or accomplish a thing. And our friend Merriam Webster says, especially to give practical effect and ensure of actual fulfillment by concrete measures. So it's the doing and the creating of the material, of the physical thing, the tangible thing. So that is the last step. We don't get to that part until we've gone through steps 1 through 3. Um, so again, the message comes before the material. You can't jump from idea to implementation. Um, your logo is the concrete measure of the fulfillment of your brand, right? So my husband is in logistics and fulfillment. And so before something gets to a warehouse for trucks to pick it up and take it out into to its destination, the product has to be there. How does the product get there? All products start with an idea from a creator who's like, wouldn't it be cool if, right? And then they're like, okay, well, if we're going to build this thing, what is it going to be used for? Who are the people that would want to buy it? Where would we sell it? How would we sell it? Like, there's strategy and intention that goes behind it before the product ever gets made, before it ever gets delivered to the warehouse, and before it goes to get fulfilled out into the world for people to actually buy it. So your logo, your graphics, your website, all of these things that are the physical or visual representations of your brand, they cannot come into concrete measure, into that implementation, until those other things are in place first. And if your brand is the real life and the digitized reflection of your reputation, then um, your reputation is really the overall beliefs that people have about you and what you do. Um, and beliefs are formed from opinions. Um, how do we get beliefs or opinions? It's from having a thought on repeat. So, how do we develop our thoughts? It's because it comes from us seeing and hearing things over and over again, and whether it's experiences we've had in our lives or commercials we see all the time, and we're like, "Oh, I think that's a pretty good product. I probably should get that because we've seen this commercial that says the same thing over and over again." That is the message, right? So, why do you think that if that's how you buy things, why do you think that you don't need to provide that for your ideal clients so that they can start developing their own beliefs about you and what you can do to help them so that then they can be ready to buy as well? So um, that means that you have to show up consistently with your message on repeat because that's what people need to be able to form a belief about you. That builds your reputation and your brand. And then you can worry about the material manifestations of said brand, right? Without those steps, um, there is no brand, and then you can't create these other visual or physical things. And when you do try to create them out of order without going through those other steps, then they won't be aligned to the idea that you had in the beginning or the intention of what you really wanted to go out and do, how you want to be represented, what you want to be known for. And that's when we get into that struggle of, I don't know what to post, I don't know what to talk about, spending days and weeks on landing pages or figuring out just the right thing to say or how to make it look because we didn't put the work in up front to build the brand, which is the belief system that people have about us. Because when you do that, it does the heavy lifting for you. And so then when you get ready to create the physical result of the brand, whether it's your product or selling your thing, or whether it's your graphics or your logo or any of those things, it's so much easier. That's why when you go to a graphic designer or a brand designer and and you have all of that stuff in place first, you have the intention and the purpose behind what it is that you're trying to do or what you want to be known for. You know the strategy that goes with it. You can relay the messaging to them, who you are, what differentiates you, who your audience is, um, how you help people, the problem you solve. When you have all of those things in place first, it makes it so much easier for them to create the thing that you want them to create for you. I had a client who was she was building her website um, and so she had already hired the web designer before she came to me. And luckily, she was in that stage of the process, like, literally, she had just hired the web designer where and the designer is asking her for all of this information that she doesn't know to go on her website. So they're asking her for things like, what do you want on your about page? What do you want on your homepage? Like, are you gonna have um, a lead magnet on there? What are the products or the services that you're selling? All of those things, like, when you go on a web page and it has those headers at the top, the menu bar, all of those pages, the web designer is asking her for, what do you want me to put on there? And that's a misconception I think a lot of people have when they hire someone like that. They think that they're going to be the ones to write all this stuff for you. No, you have to write it and then submit it to them. So if you don't have a copywriter who already knows your messaging and can communicate it for you, that means that falls on you. So in her situation, we were able to work through her messaging and the things that were going to go on her website because we were building out her brand strategy from the beginning. She had the idea of what she wanted this business to be, but she didn't have those foundational pieces of the brand laid out. She didn't have who her target audience was. She didn't have her value proposition, her unique value proposition, like what makes her different. She wasn't clear on that. She didn't know how to talk about what she did. She wasn't clear on the specific problem that she helped people with all of those things are part of your messaging that you have to have in place before you can give or hire somebody to help you to build the visual or the physical aspect of your brand, right? So the message has to come before the material. I want to keep saying that over and over because that's what I want you to walk away with today is that you have to be clear on your message before you can create the material, the visual, all of these things that are the fun things to do with your brand, right? The thing when we get excited about, oh, what are my colors going to be? Or, oh, what's my logo going to look like? Or, oh, I get to build my website. Or, oh, I'm going to go through a rebrand because what I have right now doesn't fit what I really thought my business was going to be or where it's going now. It's because you didn't do this foundational work or go through these steps first. So, um, I want you to take a look at where you are right now with your brand. Like, have you gone through the steps? Have you missed anything? Right? What do you need to go back and fix so that you can have a successful brand? And so, I have a free resource for you that can help you to do that. It's an assessment. It's the magnetic brand messaging assessment. Um, it is a health check for your brand. It's going to walk you through um, 5 different pillars that I teach on brand messaging, having magnetic brand messaging. And it's making sure that you've gone through these steps. So this is it takes about 5 minutes to complete. It's absolutely free. You'll get a personalized report at the end, as well as tips and strategies based on your specific results that you can implement right now so that you can make sure that you're going back and picking up those crumbs that you might have left before in making your cake. Sorry, I had to bring that back up. I'm trying to cut my sugar, y'all. And so like cake is on my brain right now. And literally even right now as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about um y'all, my daughter's first word as a baby was cake. So, like, and she used to have this really deep, raspy voice, and I remember I was just going back to work, and I was taking her to daycare, and she's in the back seat, and all of a sudden, she starts going, "Cake," like, in that deep, raspy voice that she had, and, we had passed by a bakery, and there were cakes in the window, and so that was her first word, so that tells you how this craving of sugar runs in my family. All that to say, I want you to build your cake the right way and to not miss any steps so you don't have a big gloppy mess with your brand. To do that, go ahead and take the magnetic brand messaging assessment completely free, get your results, get some tips and strategies you can implement right now, and make sure that your messaging comes before your material.